Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another lesson in the OET course. This is actually the last lesson in the first phase of the course. How has preparation been so far? I hope it's been going good. Well, you don't have to give up at this point because we're in this together, and of course, we'll make it happen for you. You're going to get your required score to work in the country of your choice. Do stay in touch. You can always call to ask questions. We are in this together, like I said, and so we'll be there to offer you the needed support and assistance to make this journey a fruitful one for you. In this lesson, we are looking at the tips for the writing subtest. The tips for the writing subtest. The foundation of everything matters. Once you're able to get a very good foundation, a very good basis, then whatever you do next, of course, you must try to stick to the plan. Whatever you do next would definitely work for you. And similarly, you need to build your proficiency level in the English language to be able to write a very good letter in the 45 minutes that you have. If your English is bad, then definitely, you're going to have some problems. But once you work on it, then we are good to go. Know, the rules of the language, the grammar, because that is what, determines everything. Subject verb agreement, noun pronoun agreement, tenses, types of sentences, or ordering, words to form a sentence. Whatever it is with a language and its rules, you should be able to at least get a good amount of them at your fingertips that you can apply very easily when you're writing. Avoid rote learning and memorizing formats. This is not good. It is not good at all for you to do. When you visit, some other sites, they tell you that, okay, this is the format that would give you a B or A or C plus. There's nothing like that, because the content of the letter, the structural features are the same, but then the content is always different. It depends on the writing task that you have and the case notes. And of course, in the writing task, you're told who you're writing to. So that also determines what you should select from the case notes as relevant to write the letter that you have. So if you go, memorizing, then definitely you're going to have a problem writing the letter on the day. Select and organize the information in a way that informs the reader appropriately and effectively. Think about conciseness and clarity, which is an assessment criterion while you write the letter. The recipient should be able to retrieve all the necessary information, very easily without having to move to the beginning part of the letter, come back to the ending part, go back to the beginning. And, you should be able to effectively communicate with the person by arranging the relevant information in an appropriate way. So you can always put yourself in the shoe of the person, and then you tell, or you ask yourself, how best can I communicate with myself when I'm presenting, this information that I've selected to myself? And then you should be able to use that as a springboard to write a very good letter. Out of the 45 minutes that you have for the writing subtest, you're supposed to use 5 minutes to read the case notes. The first thing you do is to go to the writing task, read that. Understand what you have to do in there. So it tells you that you're writing a letter to this person, referring or discharging this patient, inform this recipient whose address is this, for continuous care, or to schedule an appointment for the patient. Whatever it is in the writing text that you have, you need to read that, understand that. Of course, you think about underlining a few, keywords in there. If you're able to grasp what the writing task is saying, then you go to the case notes. In that case, you'll be able to select the relevant ones. But if you have no idea what the writing task is, and you just go to the case notes and then you start reading, how can you tell which ones are relevant and which ones are not? So read the writing task first, then you go to the case notes. Of course, the instruction is always the same. Expand the relevant case notes into complete sentences. Do not use note form, use letter format. The body should be approximately 180 to 200 words. These are the instructions that you have. So you can sort of ignore that, because by the time you're writing the test, you know what the instruction is. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't read it. Of course, you have to just look at it to see if any other thing has been added at the point when you're taking the test. If you don't use this 5 minutes very well, then your 40 minutes, you would really be sweating. If you're able to use the 5 minutes very effectively to understand the writing task, to select the relevant case note, then the rest of the 40 minutes, you're going to have fun writing the letter. Otherwise, I'm sorry, and you have to use the right approach. That is why we're telling you this at this point when you are not in the test room yet. You should write legibly. I know for most health workers, the handwriting is not too good, but of course, you should be able, whoever is receiving your letter should be able to read it. You don't need to have a very beautiful handwriting, one that makes you go, wow. You don't need that kind of a handwriting to pass the writing test. You should be able to write for the second person to be able to read and retrieve the information from there. So if you have a very terrible one that sometimes even you yourself, you're unable to, remember what it is you're trying to write, then you have to work on it a little bit. You write often. Okay, so instead of typing, everything, you can choose to, write as a way of getting your handwriting to a better state before the test. When it comes to the case note selection, we talked about selecting and organize the information, which is the relevant ones. How do you go about it? In a previous lesson, we talked about some pointers on questions that you need to ask to be able to select the relevant case notes. What is your role in all of this? In the letter that you have, what is your role? If you're a nurse, then that is your role as a nurse. Then who is the recipient of the letter? Social worker, a specialist? Who are you writing to? You should be able to tell from the writing text that has been given to you. And what is the relationship with the patient? Did the patient come from the recipient to your facility and you want him or she to go back there? Or this is the first time you are referring the patient to the recipient? You need to know that, and definitely it will be in the writing task for you to tell. Then you should think about, after you know who you're writing to, you should know what the person would have to do for the patient. Then once you understand that, ask yourself what relevant information will the person need to take care of the person. You select that. What other information will the person need? You do that. So you move from the primary relevant information to the secondary ones, and by which time you should have communicated enough with the recipient of the letter. If they are associated relevant information that the person will have to know, then you give it off at that point. You should also understand what the best way is to present the information. We looked at some ways when we talked about the best approach in the previous lessons. I think the last 3 lessons. We talked about best approach. We talked about either looking at chronology, data and all of that, or you're looking at how the immediate need and what information you can present in that particular order. Then we looked at problem and solution. Okay, so whichever one that you choose, make sure that the letter communicates with the recipient in the best of ways, and it's effective for the person to easily retrieve the information that he or she needs. Do not focus on word count. The rule is that you include relevant case notes and exclude irrelevant ones. In the instruction, you have the body should be approximately 180 to 200 words. Once you select the relevant case notes and you put them together appropriately, writing them in grammatically correct sentences, then of course you can easily get your 180 to 200 words. You may do less than that, slightly less than that, or slightly more than the 200. You are not penalized. But if you exceed both the minimum or the maximum, by a very wide margin, then definitely there is a problem, and that is definitely going to affect your band score. Make sure to also proofread your letter and make the necessary corrections. When we looked at, still under the best approach lesson, we looked at what you should do, how you should approach the letter that you're writing in terms of the the entire instruction, the case notes that you have, the writing tags that you have. What are you supposed to do? We saw that you're supposed to analyze and select during the first 5 minutes that you have. In that 5 minutes also, you're supposed to organize. So you're using your writing to link, draw arrows here and there. Of course, you have a page in the answer booklet to make some notes also. So of course you can make some notes also over there. Then the transforming the case notes is done in the answer sheet. So this is where you're writing the letter. Do not write it on the question paper or in the notes section of the answer sheet that you have, and hope to transfer after some time. You may not know what would go wrong, and the time may not be on your side. So make sure that the transformation is done in the answer booklet. Then when you're done, you need to edit, you need to proofread your work, make all the necessary corrections, because you're saving yourself some scores, which will ultimately boost your grade. So do not joke with this part and say that, okay, I've written a very good letter and that's enough. Definitely once the brain moves faster than the hand when you're writing, you're going to make some mistakes. And sometimes even during the first reading stage, when you want to proofread, you may not find a good number of the mistakes. You have to do a second reading to be able to get all those ones, and then you make the necessary corrections. If you have to cancel, do that neatly. If you have to insert a word, do that neatly. Let it be legible enough, let it be clear enough. But remember, you don't have to end up with a very messy work also. If the organization especially is done very well, then you have less mistakes when it comes to the editing part, and you want to make some corrections over there. Ultimately, you don't just wake up one day and say that, okay, I'm registering for the OET without practicing. You need to practice. All of this will come to you easily when you practice. So put some time into this. Do not shy away from practicing and say that, okay, I've received a very good lesson, I understand what I have to do and all of that, without practicing. if you do that, then you may as well, shouldn't have gone through all of this, because it may not yield. You need to know how well you can apply all that you have learned in this course to the real thing. And that is why the next the last phase of this is where you're trying your hands on sample test questions in real time. So you know that, okay, I know that I have to do this and I have to do this. How well am I, how good can I apply this when I'm in the exams hall? And this would help you a lot. Hope you've had a good time going through this course and it's been helpful. Of course, I'll see you on the other side when we interact in the live sessions. All the best and see you.